Hi guys, it's Isa. Today we're gonna do my May TBR, which will consist on 8 books. Out of those, 2 are gonna be new releases, then 5 are gonna be reads that are the beginning of a new series, and then hopefully I'm able to read at least one,
which is a continuation of an ongoing series.
Starting with the new releases. I believe May doesn't have as much new releases as compared with other months.
For example, June, which is amazing.
But the releases that are planned for this month, for me, are actually really exciting, and I'm really wanted to get into those. And we will start with The Book of Night by Holly Black. We will need to imagine kind of like a dark story where there's shadow magic, and it seems that our shadows can be used to trick people and gain power, and it's easily used for bad ends. But using shadow magic has a cost, which for me it's super interesting. These consequences overall, I love when magic has consequences, and in here especially by using shadow magic you might have less hours of life or less time of your life. It's kind of consuming from there. And we will start with the main character, Charlie, who is kind of like a con artist, and she has been kind of like moving a little bit away from this world of shadow magic, of power, of murder, and now she's kind of trying to lay low. But it seems that her past will come again, and that she will be thrown, like in a chaos and a very dangerous and murderous situation. What I am hoping for this story is for the main character to be very cunning. I really love how Holly Black makes her characters to be grey, but at the same time they are really intelligent. They are really charismatic in a way. And then we move to the next one, which is as well an adult fantasy new release, The Stardust Thief. And again, this sounds so interesting, and we will be delivered through this setting that it's gonna be kind of like an Arabian setting. And we will start with our main protagonist that is as well a little bit of not a con artist, but she's definitely dealing with black magic, and she kind of like does all of these with her bodyguard, who is a jinn. It seems that one day our main character kind of like saves the son of the sultan, and as a result she is blackmailed from the sultan to find kind of like an artifact, a magic lamp that is going to be able to resurrect the land. But it will have a massive cost, which is the death of all of the jinns. It's supposed to be very rich in terms of the world building, and as well as a little bit plot driven, so let's see how that goes. And now we go to the bucket of the series that I'm starting with the adult fantasy. I will be reading Black Sand. This story is set in the pre-Columbian America civilization, and it's supposed to be a story that it's kind of like a blending different stories, but that at its core it's kind of like talking about the mythology and about the destiny, and how if you're fated to become something, and if you are kind of like the chosen one or not a chosen one. And it will have kind of like 2 stories that at some point will blend. From one, we will start with this city, which is kind of like this holy city, and they are kind of like approaching the winter solstice, a date in which for them always it's kind of like a change date and something beautiful. But it seems that now an eclipse is happening, and for them this is taken as a really bad omen. And then this story will blend with another story that will put us kind of like in this ship where the captain of the ship has a little bit of magic, and she has a passenger also there that it's supposed to be harmless, but of course it won't be harmless, and it seems that the destiny of this civilization will change as a result of that. Then we move to The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. And yes, this is the first time that I will be reading Joe Abercrombie, and I am actually, like so afraid of not liking his writing style or not liking this dark, grim fantasy. But at the same time, I'm really hopeful that this being a very character-driven story, it will, just make it the sweet spot for me. And honestly, this story, I've heard a lot of times what is the description of it. I've read a lot of times the description myself.
And as of now, the only elements that I have is that it's really character driven, that it has different points of view, that it has a plot but it doesn't have a plot, that all of them are really great characters.
And so we can talk a little bit more about these characters. We will have this kind of like inquisitor, a wizard, kind of like a selfish captain, and we're also gonna see kind of like this infamous barbarian person. And you know, I don't really want to know more. Please let me know if this is a book that you believe I will like, and I will 100% let you know more, and hopefully we'll do a better job explaining what I like about it in the wrap-up. And the last adult fantasy book that I will be reading this month is The Promise of Blood. For this story, we will be delivered to this medieval kind of setting where the king has been killed and has been killed by a main protagonist, and so he is now kind of like in this position where he is ruling the kingdom, but he needs to have like a lot of power, and he needs to put a lot of thought on how this kingdom is now ruled, because there's a lot of internal tension and there's kind of like a lot of political intrigues in order to break the kingdom down and take the power. And so he is really relying on his powder mages. But above all that, we will have another layer to the story, which is that it's supposed that the gods are walking the earth once again. We're seeing different omens that this is happening, and this is even furthermore destabilizing this kingdom. So there's going to be a lot of happy moments of our main character, you know, suffering to get the kingdom at peace.
And I love it. I love
the aftermath, suffering the consequences, and dealing with that political intrigue. And then we go to the next two books that are young adult fantasy series, and that I honestly am thrilled about it. The first one is this Savage Song by B.E. Schwab. And so, yes, it's supposed to be a young adult story, but at the same time, B. Schwab always writes so dark that, you know, I think that with her, the genres kind of blend. This story, it's kind of like a very dark urban fantasy, which has a little bit of a dystopian element as well. And we will be kind of like in the aftermath of a world where by committing murder, we are creating monsters. And it seems that we will have two points of view, completely different. One from a character that is a monster and that wants to be a good person, that he wants to do good, and then we have just a regular person that really wants to be a little bit bad and, you know, like take advantage of the situation of the family. This is supposed to revolve a lot around what are the heroes, who are the villains, and overall to have this very plot and character driven story, which is already B.E. Schwab mark. And last but not least, I will be body reading Fable with Jess from Honest Fiction. We will have a story kind of like set in the sea environment, kind of like in an island. It's supposed to be a little bit of a piratey story, and we will have our main girl, Fable, whose mother has just died, and she has just kind of like been forgotten in this island by her dad. Her dad is one of the most important or relevant pirates, and she will do whatever it takes to get outside this island and, you know, grasp the position that she is promised and that she owns. I've been hearing that it's a story that has a beautiful world building, that it's pretty plot driven, and, you know, like it's fairly short, it's a duology, and that the character, it's really interesting. Last but not least, I really would like to continue again with the Zodiac Academy. This story, I've talked about it a lot of times, so I will be brief, but it's kind of like a fantasy romance story that has a lot of bullying.
So it does sound weird that I want to continue to read this, but honestly, once that you start, it's kind of like a little bit like I'm hooked.
It starts with two sisters, two twins. They are Fae, live in the human world, but they are, you know, kind of like told that they are Fae and that they need to harness their powers, they need to work, and they are kind of transported to this Fae world where they will need to train their abilities in this Zodiac Academy. And so the magic system, it's really interesting. It's elemental magic, and it seems that every fae has the ability to have at least one of these elemental powers, but it's rare to have more than two, and our girls have the four of them. And so yes, they are really untrained, but they have a lot of power, a lot of potential. And not just that, it seems that they are kind of like the heirs of the throne of the Fae, and this is again kind of like destabilizing a little bit the situation that the Fae have right now, because previous king no one liked, and it's really interesting and it's a little bit steamy. So hopefully it keeps things spicy for this month. And yeah, that was it for today. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know down below, what are you gonna be reading this May. Happy reading!